The Holy Land, one of the most mysterious and at the same time important places in history, albeit one rarely explored by most media. Assassin's Creed intends to remedy that by putting you in the shoes of an assassin in the middle of a conspiracy that threatens the peace and integrity of the sacred settlement. Is it worth saving, or should you stay far, far away from it? You play as Altair, a master assassin, and Desmond, his descendant, a typical young man whose very genetic code just so happens to be a veritable history book and guide to a long-lost treasure, even if he would much rather go back to his boring life instead of being used as a lab rat. Our protagonists are connected through the Animus, a device that restores memories buried within an individual's DNA. It's a smart framing device to why you're mostly doing assassin stuff in the Holy Land, and even the rare moments when you'd have to play as Desmond are still compelling, thanks to the interesting evolution of the relationship between him and the science team on hand.
Was a hoax? I believe there's also a book claims the world was created in 7 days. A bestseller.
At the beginning of the game, Altair is stripped of his rank after a simple mission goes haywire, which means he will have to work his way up the ranks once more. You will need to travel between your hideout and the other cities by horse. However, once you've been everywhere, you are given the option of fast travel between the cities, a useful addition you're likely to make use of. As the game goes on, you will learn new combat techniques and take on increasingly well-protected targets. To enable an assassination, you'll need to first find the city's bureau, then gather information on the target by completing a few side quests. In every city there are 6 side missions, of which 4 are necessary to start an assassination. These consist of interrogations, pickpocketing, eavesdropping, deliveries, and so on, plus optional activities like climbing watchtowers to reveal the map, and saving citizens to receive a larger health bar. Once you've completed a mission, you need to return to that city's bureau, then to the hideout, to advance the story and occasionally earn an upgrade. This is a game in which screwing around is strongly discouraged. Killing or even hurting innocent civilians will lose you a bit of synchronization with the Animus, and the guards that would otherwise ignore you might start giving chase. Oddly enough, beggars and madmen only pester Altair, forgetting that there are other people around. As an assassin, staying unseen is strongly encouraged, and while taking things slowly or blending in with a group of scholars will help you bypass guards, you're more likely to use these methods as last resorts, as it's much faster to just run across the rooftops, taking out the occasional sentry if needed. Traveling inside a city is a true pleasure, as both the rooftops and ground allow for free movement. There are no invisible walls, and free running is a blast, as Altair is incredibly well animated, free of the typical clipping and jerkiness you'd see in a regular game. In fact, the game itself is a visual powerhouse, thanks to detailed textures, exceptional character modeling and animation, and high NPC counts. The narrow streets are filled with people, giving the impression of a genuinely lived-in world, unlike most other open worlds. The sound too is top-notch, with great voice acting and an unforgettable score by BAFTA winner Jasper Kidd, although the dialogue is a bit too theatrical to feel natural. The worst offenders are the long drawn-out speeches given by your targets. You'd think having a slit throat wouldn't make for a particularly long conversation with someone, yet that doesn't seem to be the case here. On paper, Assassin's Creed is a dream come true. It has a complex storyline, varied missions, and a smart merger between narrative and game design that contextualizes everything elegantly. However, for all the platforming and stealth in the game, there is also one part of combat. Variety is something one would rarely complain about, but the combat in Assassin's Creed is downright primitive, as you can only attack, block, dodge, and eventually counter, but that's about it. Enemies attack you one by one, and while there are light and heavy attacks, the heavy emphasis on timing makes fights either boring because you have to wait to be able to attack or counter, or frustrating since the window for a counter is very small and blocking enemies won't die easily. They become tedious early on and don't become much better. In fact, that's Assassin's Creed's main problem: repetition. Throughout the game, doing side missions, climbing towers, and helping citizens will become a stale routine, as you have to do it 9 times to complete the game. The first third of the game represents an experience unlike any other, one filled with the joy of exploration and discovery. The second third is still enjoyable, albeit a bit too familiar. The final third, however, is when the experience starts growing sour due to repetition. And the fact that the final hour of the game is nothing but pure combat doesn't help either. It makes for a 15 to 20 hour long game, but also makes for one you will never want to return to. The story too disappoints, as the promising start is only equaled in complexity by the finale, whereas the rest of the game becomes a simple tale of retribution that you'll stop paying much attention to, once again, because of familiarity. The game does have an interesting take on morality, but since this is a linear game we're talking about, it doesn't impact the experience as much as it should. Add to that an ending that has little resolution and feels more like a sequel hook than anything else, and you have a recipe for a story that doesn't really live up to its potential. All told though, it's still engaging and will keep you hooked. Assassin's Creed looks gorgeous, sounds fantastic, is cleverly designed, and features an interesting storyline, but ultimately it's a game that disappoints due to excessive repetition and a dissatisfying conclusion. It's still a great game that you'll definitely enjoy, especially if you restrain yourself and play in short bursts over a long period of time. If that's the case, this is one target worth looking out for.